Good morning, welcome back. So we are in video 2 of activity 1.7, telling details of transformation. And as a reminder, you have now finished reading the Red Fox Fur Coat and done the opening writing prompt. So again, just kind of our learning targets and why we're doing this. We're looking at telling details. How do telling details and adding those details to a story help the reader make inferences or conclusions about what the author is saying. So in this case, we were looking for inferences about the main character, the humble bank clerk's emotional state. In addition, we're going to take a look at how the theme or the overall message from the author is developed through characterization. And we're going to look at how those specific word choices that the author uses, so the words that they use to express those details, impacts that meaning, and tone of the text. So we're going to walk through the questions and the working from the text. And so I'm going to scroll down here. You did the opening writing prompt, but let's take a look at number 1. Okay. So number 1 asks you to complete a graphic organizer about the details that are implied in the opening paragraph. So not the ones that are directly stated. So in the opening writing prompt, you looked for both. You looked for all of her emotions, some of which were directly stated. She felt this way, and some of which you had to infer from some other descriptive language and telling details. So it asks you to find the ones that you had to infer that were not directly stated, put them in the left-hand column under emotion, and then provide evidence, the detail from the text that led you to that inference or that conclusion. So you can see I've done one for you. Let's go down to the paragraph, though, and see where I got that from. So I'm skimming. So just as a rereading strategy, I am skimming the text, and I see that the very first emotion that they identify is direct. So it says she stopped outside and felt a shiver of pleasure and desire. So she stops at the window, she sees the coat, it makes her feel happy, and it makes her want it. Now, then as I continue to skim, for this was the coat she had always wanted. So this does tell me something about her feelings. She wants it, right? There wasn't another one like it, she thought, running her eyes over the other coats from the metal rack or delicately draped over a brocade sofa. It was rare, unique. She had never seen such a color. And then they go on to describe this coppery, fiery color. So when you see something, I'm thinking about how she must feel standing in front of the window. She's never seen anything like it. It's one of a kind. It's this beautiful, bright color, and she can't stop looking at it. And it's so much better than all the other coats that she sees in the window. So I think she's feeling a sense of awe. Oh my gosh, look at this. I've never seen anything like it. To me, that's awe. And I can't think of another word to describe it except perhaps inspired or awe-inspired. So as I scroll back up, that's what I have put in the left-hand column. Now you can do this in your paper textbook or in the digital textbook. Either way is fine. And then I have in the other column put the details. It's one of a kind, it's unique, it's rare. So I would like you, and you can pause now and come back after you complete this, or you can listen to the instructions and then come back and do this on your own. So complete the remaining 4 rows with 4 more emotions that you see her feeling and the details that led you to make that inference. So I'm going to scroll down below the story to where the working from the text questions are, and just kind of walk through those questions and make sure that everyone has the same understanding and let you know how we're going to go about answering them. So question number 2, under working from the text, asks you to think about how the bank clerk character develops over the course of the story. So you know now, having read the story, that she goes through quite a change as she sees the coat and begins to feel connected to the coat. She changes. And this question says, at what point do you know that the red fox fur coat is changing her both physically as well as emotionally? So there is a point in the story at which you probably began to think, there's something going on here that's kind of different, that's maybe even a little strange. And you began to see the physical change in her. So you may start your response with a sentence frame like, the bank clerk's physical transformation begins in paragraph, and then you'll say what paragraph number. Through the details, blank, 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 I began to realize her change was physical as well as emotional. Something similar to that. Okay. You can do that here on the digital textbook or in your paper book. Now, number 3, you're going to complete in a Google document that you're going to turn in for me. I need a writing sample from you, and this is going to be that writing sample. So let's look at what it says, and then I'll tell you what I'm looking for in your response. It says, in your reader writer notebook, I'm going to say in the document in the Google Classroom, write a short first-person narrative from the perspective of the bank clerk, describing her physical evolution through the course of the story. Report telling details about the change she is experiencing, almost as if you are reporting physical symptoms to a doctor. So think about this. Basically, you're using first-person perspective, point of view. The story was told in third person. So you have to change the pronouns you use, right? To I and me, right? And then what I want you to do is pretend you're telling a story from her point of view to a friend, to a listener, to the doctor, where you describe, using telling details, what is happening to you physically, right? So, maybe you called a friend and you're telling a friend. Maybe it's somebody at the party that you're telling what's happening to you, or maybe it's a doctor, okay? But you're going to do this in a Google Doc, in the Google Classroom, and the assignment is there. And I am going to assess it for, first, how you write. So your organization, are your ideas organized logically? Your use of English grammar conventions. So how's your sentence structure? How is your spelling and your punctuation and capitalization? And then also, can you pull evidence from the text? Are the physical details, or these physical symptoms or telling details, are they accurate as far as what the story told us? So can you identify the things in the story and then put them in this first person narrative? I'm looking for something from 1 to 3 paragraphs. So at a minimum, 8 to 10 sentences. I'm not looking for anything terribly long. So I'm not looking for a 3-page short story. 1 to 3 paragraphs. And I would say 8 to 10 sentences in that first paragraph. Some paragraphs can be smaller if you're writing multiple paragraphs. But if you're only writing 1 paragraph, 8 to 10 sentences in that paragraph. And I will have you turn those in by Sunday at midnight. Now, hopefully you'll have them completed, because you still need to go on to 1.8 and 1.9 this week. So hopefully you will complete those before you move on, because number 4 asks us to share. And I would like to take some time in our live session this week to share a little bit about what you wrote, so that we can take note of what those physical characteristics were and those changes were, and the telling details that led us to that first person narrative. Okay. So number 4, you don't really need to write anything down because you don't have a partner to work with yet. So number 4 can stay empty. And then number 5 has multiple sections through which you look at the bank clerk a little more closely. So A and B both ask you to talk about whether or not she is a predator. As she begins to think about this word predator, it keeps popping up in her mind. Or whether she is prey. Is she a victim of something or some external force? So you're going to discuss what you think and explain why you think it in 5A. And then in 5B, you're going to discuss what the telling details were that led you to that conclusion, and which one you think is most strongly indicated by the text. 5C is just a little bit different. It talks about how the end of the story moves very quickly. Once she gets the coat, her transformation is fast. And then I want you to talk about in 5C, what did the narrator say about how it feels to be inside the bank clerk's body? So go back to that point in the story, look for what she says, and examine this shift to now she's just not thinking as the bank clerk, she's thinking as something else. And so what does the narrator say there? And then 5D asks you to go back to the About the Author section. And Gersal, the author of this piece, writes a lot about characters who struggle with societal conventions. So their role in society and what society expects from them. So the idea that girls should be girls and boys should be boys, or the idea that this is your role in the job and you do nothing else. That's how you're supposed to think and behave. And so you should, stick to what society says you're supposed to do. So this question asks you if you think the bank clerk is one of Gersal's characters that is struggling with societal conventions. Do you think she's struggling while she's the bank clerk to live within the norms of society in the city? Or do you think that she was just fine before she saw the red fur coat? Okay. And then what details from the story lead you to that conclusion or support your conclusion? So then number 6, again, talks about working with partners, but this is one you can do on your own, even if you don't have a partner. What I want you to do for number 6 is you're going to write one sentence. You're going to go back and you're going to look at all of the answers to your other questions. And you're going to write one sentence using the subordinate conjunction although. So we've talked about complex sentences, subordinating conjunctions, and this sentence is going to begin with the word although. And it's going to identify 2 contrasting characteristics about our story or our narrator. You're going to say, although something, this, that contrasts that. So for example, although the bank clerk was humble, she felt special when she got the red fox fur coat. So although something, then this. Okay, so write that one sentence. It's only one sentence. I am going to ask you to share that sentence in our live discussion. I'm going to ask you to type it in the chat, and I'm going to be watching for it. All right, so that's it for this video. When you come back for the next one, we're going to talk about the questions in the Appreciating the Author's Craft so that we can address that in our live session. All right, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful day. Go back now, please, and finish responding to those questions. And I look forward to talking about your answers.